Democrats passed another piece of legislation, and that is the For the People Act. This is a great piece of legislation as far as I'm concerned, both from the perspective of it's good policy and it's good politics. And one of the things that we were talking about, as the Democrats take over the House, was they need to start passing things that also help them maintain power. But, and it just so happens that there's a cross-section in that Venn diagram of things that help keep them maintain power and also are based on democratic values and just simply justice. And that, of course, is voting reform. So the bill includes a requirement that all states automatically register voters who submit paperwork to a state government agency unless the person opts out. So that's, motor voter registration. That is, it expands it, whatever business you would have with the state. Medicaid, anything, good stuff. Provide same-day voter registration in every state. Allow 15 days of early voting with sites located near public transportation. Use nonpartisan redistricting commissions to draw new congressional maps. This is like the whole thing that Greg Sargent, I think, called for the other day. Enable online voter registration. Count provisional ballots from eligible voters filed at wrong polling place and use paper ballots in addition to electronic voting systems. It would ban post-release felon disenfranchisement. So that's 5 million Americans would regain their voting rights. Bill, however, would still allow states to disenfranchise people while they're in prison. States would be banned from engaging in voter caging, which is that stuff like cross-check. It would be impermissible for states to remove someone from the voting rolls for failing to vote in a previous election, which is often used. If you haven't voted in the past election, you got a letter, and you didn't return it, you get kicked off the rolls. Election day would be a federal holiday for 2 million plus federal workers and non-government employers would be encouraged to give the day off to private sector employees. That doesn't go far enough in my mind. It should be a national holiday, but colleges and universities would be designated as voter registration agencies. Absentee ballots would no longer require postage, so you wouldn't get votes thrown out or be any more difficult to vote that way. It would increase funding to help states update and secure election infrastructure. The Election Assistance Commission would oversee these updates and mandated reports on its progress so we get a sense of what's going on around the country. The election systems would be deemed critical infrastructure. It went on to say to resolve some declarations and findings, which will basically be the premise for future legislation that will be introduced soon, including fixing the Voting Rights Act, Section 5. We've been talking about this for years since the Supreme Court rolled it back in 2013. That Representative Terry Sewell from Alabama will introduce this legislation, which will move on a separate track during the committees. There's also the bill also asserts support for statehood for District of Columbia, protects Native American voting rights, and the right to vote in U.S. territories. It also addresses campaign finance reform. And this is the most interesting part. It creates a public financing system for House elections that provides $6 in public funds for every $1 in funds raised from donations up to $200. So people understand that? Now, New York City has a very similar program. In fact, that reminds me, Nomiki Konst is running for public advocate. In the next 8 days, I think it is, your donation of up to, I think it is $250 will be matched by the city by 8 times. So if you donate $10 to her or $25 to her, if you donate $10 to her, it's going to be worth $80. If you vote $100, it's going to be worth $800 to her. And I believe this goes until the next 8 days. So We've got a link at majority.fm to her site. Go and do that. No pitch for membership today. Just go do that. But aside from that, the New York City one is a great program, and this would be great to have nationally. In addition, it also includes the Disclose Act, which mandates that nonprofits and other groups disclose their sources when they contribute to election campaigns. A lot of these 503c ones now that purport to be nonpartisan, this is the way that they get dark money into campaigns. The package Honest Ads Act requires the disclosure of digital political ads on tech platforms. The FEC would be reconfigured from 6 members to 5 to prevent deadlocks on important issues. Because more often than not, they deadlock and nothing happens. Coordination between super PACs and candidates would be more clearly defined and banned. There's also assertions and findings that would implicate future legislation, including a declaration that the Constitution should be amended to overturn not just Citizens United, but also Buckley v. Vallejo. The bill states an intent to ban anonymous shell companies from funding campaigns to prevent the potential for secret foreign money to seep into elections. And then there's some ethics reforms as well. And the Supreme Court would be covered under that ethics code. So Ginny Thomas might have to find a different job rather than being a conduit to her husband and right-wing money. So this is all good stuff. And here is Nancy Pelosi basically gaveling in and expressing what they intend to deal with in the democratically controlled Congress.
This Congress must accelerate a future that advances America's preeminence in the world and opens up opportunities for all. Building an economy that gives all Americans the tools they need to succeed in the 21st century. Public education, workforce development, good-paying jobs, and secure pensions. We have heard from too many families who wonder in this time of innovation and globalization if they have a place in the economy of the future. We must remove all doubt that they do and say to them individually, we will have an economy that works for you. Let us declare that we will call upon bold thinking to address the disparity of income in America, which is at the root of the crisis of confidence felt by so many Americans. As Justice Brandeis said, we may have democracy or we may have wealth concentrated in the hands of the few, but we cannot have both. We must end that injustice and restore the public's faith in a better future for themselves and their children.
There you have it. So that is day one for the Democrats in the House.